Sessions Podcast. We invite guests to come by and get high with us here in Nevada's original Cannabis Lounge. So let's get into it. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the NuWu Sessions Podcast. We're back at it with another one, and we're bringing back some past guests here. We've got Mr. JC Coates and full-time Tony from Culture and Cannabis. Thanks for coming back on the podcast, guys.
What's up?
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course, man, of course. Welcome back to the NuWu. I think the production looks a little bit different than the last time you guys were on here. We're trying to amplify things to a new level. Same thing, new home, SkyHighLounge, you know. I know you've been here. Have you been here yet, Tony?
Yeah, I've been here for a couple different things. The last thing was the Chamber of Cannabis.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, we've had a few of those events here. I mean, these days we're rocking events basically 5 nights a week. So tons of activations, but we're just barely getting started, man, scratching the surface. So thank you guys for being here and excited to get a redo in. So,
let's go.
Hell yeah, man. Appreciate it. So to start things off here, guys, let's introduce what we're sipping on. As per usual, I'm sipping on the classic Blue Dream here, 10 milligrams of THC. Mr. JC and Mr. Tony here, you guys both got Americanos, right?
Yeah, just black.
Yeah, big coffee guys.
Yeah, there you go, right?
Yeah.
Like bitter, the more bitter, the better.
Hell yeah.
I don't know about that, but I just like a nice black coffee.
There you go. I'm just sitting here trying to, this is what I always go to. I do like the coffee, but I've already had a little bit of like Red Bull this morning. The coffee and cannabis are pretty synonymous, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is like also with lounges in Amsterdam and just the way it's always been. Very excited to have coffees in our offerings here, but these I'm just sticking with what I know today,
I almost went with that, but because it just looks good. It looks like it tastes good. It looks refreshing, but something about a coffee and a joint, man.
Yeah, I mean, you guys
day.
don't know this. It is like 10 o'clock in the morning, so
yeah.
I mean, coffee is still about the right speed. But cool, guys. Well, let's just dive on in. Some of these things we talked about in the last episode. If you guys didn't see it, though, I want to make sure those who didn't see that episode still know who you guys are and what you guys are about. So my first question for you is, what sparked you guys' early interest in cannabis, and what was your first time smoking weed like? If you want to start off, JC.
My first time smoking weed.
Dinosaurs were still around.
Yeah, I mean, it was a long time ago. So like, let me think about this. I mean, literally, I was like, I think I was in 7th grade, and pretty much everyone was smoking weed and drinking beer on the weekends, in Oklahoma, right? And I can remember I can't remember where we got the weed, but somebody had it, and it was kind of like this thing where like you get off of school and the parents are still at work, and back then we all played outside and rode bikes, and it was like whoever's parents weren't home, everyone would go over to that house and like eat snacks and all this stuff, and somebody had some weed, right? And we didn't really know how to smoke it, but somebody had a Coke can, right?
Okay.
And so we did the the traditional, like, where you just bend the Coke can and poke some holes in the middle of it, break up some weed, drop some in there, and then just light that sucker up right off the aluminum Coca-Cola can. Man.
There you go. Yeah.
Pass it around. That was my first time smoking weed.
Hell yeah.
7th grade.
I know that game. I don't know if you guys saw, like, Stizzy did this a few years ago where they made like a crushed can pipe.
Yes.
But I was like, oh man, that was nostalgic for me as dude, because my first stories were very much similar to that. So What about you, Tony?
I think I was like 13 or 14. I was born and raised in Las Vegas, so I went to private school, and so I had like a little bit of different experience than most kids. So I went to this kid's house. This kid named Grayson. Also was like one of my close friends, Alec, and Grayson was like a party kid. His parents very wealthy. Ironically, it's the same house that Dan Bilzerian lives in. Was his childhood house, which is like right off 215 and Jones, if people in Las Vegas know where that's at. Anyway, so we're there, and he's like, hey man, my older brother got us some weed, let's go out. And he had legitimately a full-size basketball court, like arena, that also turned into a hockey rink. He was like, my parents aren't home, we can go in there and smoke, there's no cameras. So we go in there and smoke for the first time, and we get super high. We had to like sneak through the window because like the way the alarms work on the house, I don't remember, but we had to sneak through a window. I remember getting in, he's like, all right, let's go get some snacks. And I remember walking into this dude's pantry, and it was like heaven. It looked like literally like a miniature Costco inside this pantry. He had every snack in the world. So yeah.
That's crazy. Luckily, when I was during my first time, cameras weren't even invented. So,
right.
We didn't have to be so sleek and
right.
sneaky.
Keep it on the low.
I know a lot of kids have like, I was like hiding behind. I was like, no, I was at like this like fucking mansion, just
the damn Blazarian mansion.
Yeah. Smoking a joint. With,
hey man, that's a hell of a flex right there.
With Grayson. Yeah.
Cool, guys. So, still reminiscing on those early years, do you guys have like a favorite cannabis story that sticks out to you? Maybe not your first time, but sometimes like, bro, that was fucking crazy, or something along those lines.
I mean, I can't remember. One of my friends was like, I don't know. We were probably like around like 19. And, back then, when you're 18, 17, you moved out of your parents' house, right? Like everyone did, right? Like you weren't allowed to stay there anymore.
Time's up,
your
kid.
parents were like, aren't we down here? So, and like, but one of my friends, and I always lived in like these little shitty apartments, right? It's like, I think my rent would be like $400 a month. But like this one particular friend, I won't mention his name, but he had like this really big, nice like house in Oklahoma City. Not like Dan Blazarian.
It's still OKC, right?
Like OKC, right? And I was like, bro, like, how do you live living like this, bro? And he's like, well, I'm, selling cannabis, bro. And I'm like, what? You're selling over here? He's like, yeah, come back here in the bedroom and I'll show you what I got. And he like he went underneath his bed and he pulled out like these like 2 or 3 like just like hard bricks of like brown weed. And he's like, yeah, bro, like, every, couple months we drive down to Brownsville and we pick up, one of these bricks for, $275 and we package them up in quarter bags and we sell them to all our friends. It was just like blew my mind.
Yeah, right.
Like, what? So I just always thought that was a pretty crazy story.
Hell yeah. I mean, especially those prohibition days. I feel like back in the black market myself, remembering like some of the guys I was buying weed from, be like, cool, I'm pulling out the suitcase out of the safe. Now the suitcase is locked. I'm opening that. There's a third locked container in there. Now I'm gonna like, now look at all these ounces of beautiful weed, So
I'm pretty sure he had like a knife too. He would like cut off a corner of the brick,
bro,
and, like, and there would be like seeds on it and everything.
Yeah, the brickweed days, man, how far we've come.
Right? 100%.
What about you, Tony?
Back in the legacy days when I was in college, I went to school in Reno, Nevada, and this was like 2014, 2015, and Reno had a good pipeline going from like San Francisco to Reno, so a lot of good weed would come through. And I met this guy. I was actually a manager of a t-shirt shop called Big Frog. So we do like custom t-shirts and stuff for like the university and like different businesses, whatever. This guy comes in and like our specialty is that we would print one shirt. So he would come in and get like random shirts, and he asked me one time, like, yo, like, do you smoke weed? I was like, yeah. He's like, okay, I got you, hooked him up. And I, became familiar with him. And then he invited me back to his like compound thing. And this was in Sun Valley, which is like, like 30, 45 minutes outside of Reno. I roll up there and there's like 4 or 5 double wides, and I walk in and this dude has a legit full operation, and he's selling every drug underneath the sun. And I had met him a couple times, and then he kind of like fell off or whatever, and hadn't heard from him. And then about like 4 or 5 years later, I was still in Reno. I was at Pub and Sub, which is like a notorious pizza spot, university spot, and he was there. And he had like, because before he had like this long hair, and he was like, fully shaved, whatever. And I saw him, I was like, dude, what's up? I haven't seen him forever. And I looked down, and he has the what's it called on his leg? The
ankle bracelet.
The ankle bracelet on his leg. I'm like, he was like, yeah, man, I started shipping packs out to Baltimore, and one of my trucks got stopped, and I was in the truck and had to do my time. And ironically, he lived next door to Pub and Sub. That's why he was able to go over there.
So wow, hey, there you go. I mean, the grind never stops.
Don't sell weed. Don't ship weed to Baltimore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just don't ship weed. I mean, that's a hell of a story, though, man. It sounds like he had quite an operation, though.
Yeah. He got me into the legacy market. Like, he was the guy that was like, all right, here's a pound, go front it. And then I was just, I was in a fraternity, and so it was just an easy market to sell to a bunch of kids that wanted weed and didn't have the access to it. So, so it was cool. College was fun.
100%, man. That is legacy market. I love that we're in this place with prohibition that we can even like say that, because that's more like, yeah, dude, I used to just be selling on the side, Yeah. But that's the legacy market, and I know that's how I cut my teeth in it. I was selling weed before I even realized I was selling weed. I was just trying to like help my friends out, and then I realized I'm not making any fucking money. Like, this is stupid, but it's cool how far
we
we
got to smoke weed for free.
Oh, well, that was always kind of the goal, but then it was like with the risk, you know what I mean?
Sure.
I should probably be making some money here,
100%.
But that's cool. I was just too nice of a guy when I was a kid, but that's fine. So we've talked about the early years, kind of how we got introduced to the plant and some of the stories we had there, but what motivated you guys to want to get into the legal cannabis industry?
You want me to take that? I mean, honestly, it kind of just snuck up on me, right? Like, I smoked weed my entire life, and I just smoked weed. I never really had like big dreams about weed. I just smoked weed, right? Like, I think the most really that I ever sold on the black market, like I used to like get quarter bags and break them up into 7 joints and sell them at high school and do stuff like that. But I really just was just a stoner,
Right.
But I did concerts and events, and that was really my big passion, my big love, and all that stuff. And I did it for like probably 20 years. I did it in Oklahoma City. It brought me out to Las Vegas. When I was 24, I wanted to throw, big concerts out here. And I got to this point to where I was just like, I wasn't making any money from throwing concerts and being a DJ. It was just kind of like, okay, I'm getting older. I'm seeing all my friends become like washed up DJs and things like this. And it was like, I kind of want to like get away from this. And I was like, I want to start like, getting into like the business side of like marketing, right? Because I felt like I was a marketer from doing concerts. And so at the time I started doing this like small business entrepreneur mixer. And it was really cool, right? Because I used to go to mixers and I used to think they were so boring, right? People in suits handing out business cards, shit like this. I was like, let me see if I can make this dope, right? A really cool experience. So we created this, it was called Networking Informative. It was a Tuesday night small business mixer. It moved into a different rooftop venue here in Las Vegas every month, right? So we did that for about 2 years. It was like at the Ghost Bar. It was at Commonwealth. All these different really cool venues. And it grew. And like on Tuesday nights from 7 to 9 p.m., you'd come to our event, and there'd be like 250 people there, all young, business entrepreneurs. And what I was trying to create out of that process was get marketing clients, right? Like who could I attract that was having a small business that I could help with their marketing? And it was around like 2016, and lo and behold, a dispensary owner rolls up to one of our events, and it was at Commonwealth. And he was like looking around. There's like 250 people there at 8:30 on a Tuesday night. And he's like, JC, this is really cool. Like we're kind of like struggling to get patients to our, dispensary based on all the regulations of marketing and stuff like that. Could you put together an event that could help us drive more patients to our dispensary? I was like, well, I love weed,
Yeah, right.
and I'm pretty good at doing events. So I was like, sure, I would love to do that, right? And like I mentioned, I was like, kind of getting away from doing events, right? But I was like, okay, I'll do this because he's, he paid me to do it, right? Quite frankly. And I won't mention the dispensary just for sake of them or whatever, but they had this idea where, a lot of the regulations were kind of like in this gray place. Nobody really understood them, but they wanted to give away free samples at the door, right? So whoever came, they would get free samples. Then they would learn about the store, and then, they'd get their phone number, their email, and they'd be able to remarket to them. It was a huge success. But before I was kind of like racking my mind, what am I going to create for this brand? And I can remember, like, to be honest with you, I was like day drinking, walking back and forth in my low income housing apartment. I was a single father at the time. And I was just like, what can I create for these people? What can I create for these people? And I was like, culture and cannabis. And it just hit me. And I was like, we could showcase the culture, and then we could highlight the cannabis, right? And that's what we did. So we created this concept, put a graphic together. We had free tacos, and it was free. You get a free pre-roll with if you showed up. And 500 people showed up. And it re-sparked my passion for event marketing, because the metrics of that event were just like off the charts, right? People were so excited about cannabis at that time. It re-sparked my cannabis passions and all that stuff. They got in trouble by the state because they were giving away free weed. They told me like, hey, sorry, JC, is a great event, but yeah, sorry, this ain't gonna work out. And I decided to keep the concept and commit to it and do it. And that's what I did. And so, we started in the legal weed business really on the community side, doing events. And so what I did was, I decided I don't want to be a washed up event promoter. I don't want to be a washed up DJ. I am going to take this event on, and I'm going to be committed to it, but I'm going to do it very strategically. And so what I did was I wanted to build a community, create value for the attendees, and see if I could really make an impact in the cannabis community. And we committed to that event from 2016 to 2019. We produced it on a monthly basis in the art district of downtown Las Vegas, and it grew and it grew and it grew. To a point to where I met Tony and met some other people, and we had an opportunity to create our own brand licensing deal and bring products to market for the community that we had built in 2019. So that's kind of how it happened.
That's awesome. Beautiful story too, especially just that underdog grind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like the perfect storm, but it's kind of what helped bring the brand to fruition, huh?
Yeah, 100%.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And what about you, Tony?
So college was doing legacy stuff, and then I also I felt like all my roads led to cannabis at that time. I was doing the cannabis stuff on the side. I was doing like a lot of like creative marketing stuff, and then I owned this brand in Reno called Reno as Fuck. Which was just like at first it was kind of like just like more of a fun thing to do. A lot of kids around me were doing like internships, and I was like, I'm not gonna go work for somebody for free. I'll just like work for myself for free. And so I started just by handing out stickers, and it turned into t-shirts, and then t-shirts turned into a full clothing line, and then we started throwing parties and stuff, and then we got into like alcohol, and then through that, one of my friends in college was a longtime Denver medical patient, and he just saw what I was doing. He's like, hey, I think it'd be a really smart idea for you to throw a cannabis convention, and we could do it together, whatnot. And so 2015 or 2016, we came down here for MJ BizCon. It was like the 4th or 5th ever MJ BizCon. I was like, wow, this is sick. This is awesome. So then we went back up in 2016, and then we produced the first ever Reno Cannabis Convention, which was a great success. And then we did that for a couple of years, and then through that, just started doing marketing for different businesses, dispensaries, brands up in Reno, helping some brands down here in Las Vegas. And then that's how I met this guy on a podcast, ironically.
Wow.
JC used to do marketing for New Leaf, and he used to have this thing called the New Leaf. What was it? The New Leaf Live Sessions?
Yeah, New Leaf Live.
New Leaf Live, and I was doing consulting for a CBD company in Reno called Harmonious CBD, and the owner was like, "You got to come up." And I remember because JC had this girl that worked for him that would just like send out DMs to like local people that were like interested in cannabis or posting about cannabis or whatever, and they would hit me up a bunch, like a couple weeks, because he would come up every other week to NuWu in Tahoe to do these like cool little like pop-up events, the pop-up party as we like to call it. Yeah. And I was like, nah, I'm not gonna go up there. Like, I'm gonna see literally all the same people I see down in Reno to drive up 45 minutes. And it was like the winter, so like going up there's kind of a pain just because it's snowing or whatever. And then the owner of Harmonious is like, dude, just come up here. He wants you to, get on the podcast, whatever. And then we get on the New Leaf Live. It was me, Brandon from Harmonious CBD, who's not in the industry anymore, and then Derek, who at the time was with VVG, now with Planet 13, and JC. And so we were just on there just talking, whatever. And then me and JC kind of clicked, and then developed a relationship, and and then now here we are.
The rest is history, right?
And that was 20. That was end of 2017, beginning of 2018 when that happened. So
yeah.
Oh yeah, it is crazy to think about just how much the industry's changed. I've been in the local cannabis scene here in Vegas since 2016. So when you're saying this, like I remember exactly what the time and what the vibes were like back when it was medical. Then obviously, July 1st, 2017, switched to recreational. It's just a very exciting time. But it's crazy how much the industry's changed and evolved. You know what I mean? And shout out to you guys for helping spearhead the movement and just be here grinding all these years, dude. So.
Yeah, it was so much fun in 2017. People don't realize that initial, was it July 1st was the
July
first
1st,
day?
2017,
Yeah, remember how exciting it was to go to a dispensary? And I at the time had my medical card in Nevada, so I would go to Silver State Relief, which was I think the first dispensary in Nevada. And it's so funny, all those people that were just bud tenders there end up being like general managers, director of cultivation, right? And so you just saw this branch out. And just because, if you've been in it since the medical days, you saw people just keep on going and branching out.
Yeah,
so.
No, 100%, man. It's a fucking grind. So this is probably a good part of the show when we start introducing our table package and probably start enjoying some cannabis. If you guys are down, right?
I'm down.
Hell yeah. I think we got a couple different Culture and Cannabis 8s ready to enjoy and some other goodies. If I can have Miss Yaya help us out.
Hell yeah.
Good. How are you?
Over different options for you guys to consume out of today. Mainly is going to be one of our many amazing packages that we have here at the lounge, starting off with their bong. I'm going to make sure you guys have a little pic right there. You know how bongs are. We have some awesome Culture Cannabis, some Vegas Nights, and Culture Kush. They look so good. Got a grinder for you, some lighters. Gotta check out the NuWu lighters, And then I have a rolling tray right there. Everybody doesn't know Cootie. Cleaners there. Have some cones, papers, and then for your volcano, I brought a bag over. You guys can have this option as well. Some mouthpieces, everyone can have their own, and a little brush.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Yaya. Appreciate it. Hell yeah, guys. So how do you want to start diving in?
Can I do a joint? Is that okay?
Yeah, well, we don't have joints here, so we're gonna have to roll up. We got
Roll.
some cones right
Yeah.
there. We got the grinder, but 100%, brother.
Yeah, can I roll?
Of course.
Can I roll it? Yeah.
Got a grinder right there. There's some cones. Oh,
Yeah, let's hit that volcano too.
I want to try the volcano. Yeah.
Yeah, JC.
It's been a while since I
Yeah.
did the volcano.
it'll take a
Yeah.
couple minutes to warm up.
You
I
remember
think
when it
cones-
came out, the volcano?
No, but I had a friend that had one, and I was like, what is that thing? And he was like, let's just try it.
Yeah, no, I remember the first time hitting a volcano. God, that had to be 2011, and my buddy already had it for like years at that point. He won it in some like giveaway that a local smoke shop was doing or whatever. He still has that volcano all these years later. It actually, one time it fell off a mantle because he used to store it above his fireplace on the mantle, and the old school ones, they have the wire plugged into it,
Yes.
right? So it tripped, took a dive, didn't work, shipped it back to Germany, got it back a month later, still trucking all these years later. I was telling you guys before the show, I've had mine since 2013, used it exclusively for 5 years, still works like a champ, you know what I mean? One of the biggest bragging rights these guys have is this is the only medical grade cannabis device on the market.
Wow.
No, and it's honestly, I mean, I think some of my favorite types of high is from a volcano.
It is definitely a different high. It's definitely more cerebral, but it's cleaner too. You know, sometimes when I'm having a difficulty getting where I'm trying to go, you know, some people take tea breaks. I'm like, I'm just gonna switch to the volcano for a week.
100%, 100%.
So
How about the nose on this?
That smells really good. What strain is that? That's the Culture Kush.
Yes, this is the Culture Kush. Yeah.
yeah, so you guys got the Culture Kush over here. It looks like Northern Lights GSE.
No, I think
says this is strain.
That's the Vegas Nights, right? That you
Vegas.
have.
Okay,
Yeah.
now I see it in the name there. Yeah,
This
the
is an
Vegas
OG gelato cross.
Nights. Ooh, I love gelato. I'm gonna take a look at the nose here. I know on this guy for the Vegas Nights, 31.79% THC.
Yeah, very
That's a flex and a half right there. We're looking at 4.5 megs of limonene, 4 megs of caryophyllene, and 3.62 on the humulene. Very hybridy.
I
Ooh.
remember one time we visited a cultivation in Reno, and it was I forget what cultivation it was, but
Tell the story. I'll remember right as soon as you tell me.
we brought up this terpene called humulene, and
Oh my god.
and first of all, this guy was like talking about like his process of growing weed, and he was like making these like references to like NASA.
Okay.
This guy. So I met. Yes. So this guy is special. I mean, you meet a lot of special people in
100%.
the cannabis industry. He was a very smart guy. Really knew his stuff about cannabis, and we went to go meet with him. I spaced his name. I wish I remembered his name. It doesn't matter. Anyways, he had this grow in like this back warehouse in Reno, like right by the university, which I thought was crazy because I was like, this is no way. This is 1,000 feet away from a school. But anyways, we go there, we meet with him, and he's like, yeah, NASA stole all my lighting fixtures. I sold the what was it, the trademark to Phillips, and Phillips never paid me. And he's just telling every story in the book. But his weed was fire.
It was fun.
His weed was fire.
Yeah.
So we go out with him that night, and I say, yeah, like I think my favorite terpene's humulene. He's like, humulene? That doesn't exist. I was like, are you sure? He's like, that's you have no clue what you're talking about. Humulene does not exist. And I remember looking at JC like, I'm gonna strangle this fucking guy right now.
Yeah.
That's
and then-
humulene doesn't exist.
And then afterwards, I was so mad about it. I went and Googled it, and I sent him a link. I go, just so you know, this is what humulene is.
I don't think
Yeah,
he's
dude,
in
let
the
me just put
industry
you on
anymore.
blast real
Yeah.
quick, you know? Hey, man, the power of the knowledge and just, again, how far we've come with all these years. Because, I mean,
Right.
I remember in the early days, again, started cutting my teeth as a bud tender in 2016. And I just moved here from Kansas, from the Midwest as well, you know what I mean? Didn't really know a whole lot about weed, was just trying to, like, learn quickly. It was still medical. I was trying to, like, fast track getting a card because you could actually bud tend without a medical card.
Yes.
And I was stoked for the opportunity, but, like, I was a kid in a candy store and I couldn't fucking try anything. I remember the first, like, 2 to 4 weeks working, I was like, this is hell on earth. I'm literally selling all these gorgeous looking strains all day long, and I can't try any of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, but, you know, I just remember getting, like, basically roasted by everyone, like, oh, you don't know shit about weed. You know what I mean? It was all the, your Cali kids would be like, dude, no, I know weed. I'm from California. I'm like, cool, fuck me,
Yeah.
dude. I don't know what you want me to say to you because I can't combat that. But
Do you have any brands that you remember from like medical early rec days that don't exist anymore?
So I started, I was working, so back when third shift cannabis like started, so there was 2 dispensaries because you couldn't do it in Vegas proper. You could do it in North Las Vegas, and it was Thrive and it was Reef. and they were literally down the street from each other on Cheyenne. I was working at Thrive. That was my opportunity. They were looking for a bunch of dudes to work the third shift because sketchy neighborhood. They're a little worried about it. But as far as the brands, I know at that point in time, Thrive was selling a lot of deep roots. I know, like, when I did get my card, I could start getting samples and competitions and all that. I just had like so many gram bags of deep roots harvest. Yeah. I do remember seeing, that was when I was introduced to the Grower Circle.
Okay.
And I remember seeing their Do-Si-Do in 2016. I was like, that's some of the bombest looking weed I've ever seen in my life. You know, it smelled good, tastes good. Polaris too. They were like top dogs back then. Their head cheese was like,
man, still crushes to this day. Probably a top 3 strain in Nevada.
100%. At the time though, I remember like that was one of the first strains. I remember smoking their Blue Maui that kind of changed my whole perspective on just cannabis in general. Because I was working the third shift, getting off work at like 8 o'clock in the morning, taking the bus home because I was fucking broke. And I remember smoking a whole gram pre-roll of the Blue Maui that just like changed my life. I was like, yeah, I'm in the right industry. This is where I need to be in life. Fuck it. I don't care if I'm third shift, 8 o'clock in the morning, whatever, you know, life's okay. So, but yeah, dude, and I'm glad to see a lot of those players. They're all still around, you know 100%. What I mean? You know, some of the strains and their lineups evolved, but, you know, it's still, when I talk about Blue Maui, I think about that trip on the bus that day, and I'm like, God, how far we've come.
They still have that strain, too.
Do they?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. I know their head cheese is like
it's the one. That's the
know?
one. Yeah. I mean, that strain.
They really don't need to grow anything else.
Honestly, they could literally just grow that.
Imagine being a sales rep for
right.
head cheese.
Do you guys remember when they used to do the Keef coated buds?
Yes.
Yeah.
We were just talking about Corrupt's Moon Rocks back.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
JC helped bring those to market actually.
Oh no shit.
Yeah. We did the first purchase for them at New Leaf. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it came with a live performance from Corrupt at a Culture and Cannabis show behind Rebar, which was a dirt lot, which is now a parking lot.
Yeah.
Shout out Rebar.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Hell yeah. All right. All right, so let's get back to talking about Culture and Cannabis. We kind of talked about basically like the inception of the brand and kind of how we got started, but you guys do not have a license, right? So what were some early challenges you faced when you were trying to bring Culture and Cannabis to market without actually having a license?
It was actually, you know what, surprisingly pretty easy to bring it to market. At the time we wanted to bring it to market was at the end of 2018, beginning of 2019. And at that time, that's when Culture and Cannabis was really at the peak of events. Like every month we were having like 1,500 to 2,000 people there. Brands, we probably met with about 5 to 10 brands about doing the licensing deal. And then the best deal we got is the one we took, which ended up not being the best deal long term, but it helped us get into the market. And so I used to do, so with the Reno as Fuck brand I did in college, I did a licensing deal with a beer company called Revision. We did a Reno as Fuck beer, and that didn't work out as great as I would have liked it, but it taught me a lot about how to do licensing deals and whatnot. And then I was trying to, at like beginning of 2017, I was trying to do a licensing deal actually with Kind on the Reno as Fuck strain. I had used a lawyer and a consultant, and that was a big mistake because they asked for like essentially the world. They're like, yeah, you're going to give us $5 a unit on sales, and then you're going to give us 3% on the back end, all this crazy shit. I never should have did that. And so I knew when we went with Culture and Cannabis, that kind of when I came on board with Culture and Cannabis, my goal was to help with that, help bring this product to market. JC had done such a great job building a brand that we just needed to go and execute and figure out. And so for before COVID hit, we were crushing. 2019 was a great year for us in cannabis sales.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. When they deemed cannabis essential, it was like game over, right? And I think, you talk about challenges and this and that. Sure, we faced a bunch of challenges in the beginning, but like we'd put in work 4 years on a monthly basis and built a platform and relationships. So it made conversations easy, right? And I think that's where a lot of people struggle, just getting the conversation, right?
Yeah.
And then the second thing that's difficult for new cannabis brands is they don't understand the licensing game, right? And so Tony had went through that process, and it made it easy for us when we went to go talk to people.
Yeah, right.
But then once we got the weed in the market, that's probably when some of the challenges started, right?
100%.
And I think honestly, like some of the challenges, because we were selling so much cannabis in 2019 and 2020, we were dealing with challenges that we didn't even realize it, right? So for example, like we had just one strain available. We were growing cannabis out of a high-tech hybrid greenhouse.
Does Solaris even exist anymore?
Yes,
they do. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. I thought that whole distillate thing tanked them. But
Nope. No, they got to come back and they got a new grower.
Good for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out them. But, their struggle was creating an environment that was consistent to grow good weed and yield big harvests, etc. And so they could only grow. They only had one strain that was getting it done for them.
That's hard.
And it was 91 Chem, which,
Okay.
by the way, Chem Dog, shout out, he's a legend. It was great weed, and people loved it, and we were selling tons of it. But it turned out to be a major struggle for us when things started to tighten up.
Yeah.
Because we only had one selection, right? So today, when you go, we've been talking a lot about the community stuff, but there's this whole business side, right?
100%.
So it's like, when you go sell and you only have one strain, the buyer might be like, oh, give me 100 units, right? So but if you have 5 strains, he'd be like, give me 100 units of every strain that you got, right?
Yeah.
And so that really was one of the main struggles. And then B, honestly, the deal that we had, it could have been a better deal. I'm grateful for the whole process, but some of the people turned out to be not so great. And I think a lot of people in cannabis have this story, but we ended up losing like $30,000 that we never got back. Right.
Ouch.
And so, that really fucked us up. And it could have really took our brand to another level. Right. Cause we had stacked up some capital, from, selling cannabis for 3 years or whatever. And then we had this capital tied up and, some internal arguments with the packaging team that couldn't execute perfect deliveries, which cost us money for people sending our products back and forth. That we decided that we wanted to terminate that agreement and move on. Well, through that process, it tied up $30,000, and we never got it back.
Wow. Dang, dude.
So that was a major challenge.
100%.
I mean, but shout out to you guys for weathering the storm and still being here to tell the tale, because I think that would have been something that could have, imploded a lot of brands, right? Of
course,
it's not a small amount of money. And you guys aren't just in Nevada; you guys are in multiple markets, right?
Actually, now we're just in Nevada.
Yeah.
We're just in Nevada. Okay.
Yeah, now just focusing on Nevada. It's tough. These other, it's really tough unless you have a lot of money and you're able to produce. I think something when we have always over-indexed in flower, and so, but I think when you have a product like flower, it's so state to state, flower is so different, right?
100%.
Growing conditions, growers, knowledge, stuff of that nature. So when you have a product like a gummy, right? That's and those are ingredients. That's just a recipe that you have to put together. Obviously, there are nuances to making sure you have good distillate, making sure that the distillate homogenizes correctly within the edible. But we never had a product like that, so I think it was really tough for us to branch out. And so we did. Me and Jason always says we were like the first Nevada brand that left the state to go sell in other states, and we sold in Oklahoma and California. Oklahoma is a very tough market just due to the fact that there's no cap on licenses. Now there is. They're trying to get, but there's legitimately more dispensaries than there are Starbucks in Oklahoma right now.
That's crazy.
And so there's legitimately hundreds of thousands of grows, hundreds of thousands of production facilities, packaging facilities, dispensaries. So very tough market to get into and be successful. And then California, we were doing pretty good over there. Just the relationship with the person that was running the facility that we were with just wasn't what we needed. And that's the biggest issue with cannabis, right? It's such a new industry. I mean, we're now, almost 10 years in Nevada cannabis, but it's still a new industry, right? And you're going to find a lot of people that don't understand how to do business correctly.
Yeah.
So because of that, it just makes it a lot harder. So me and JC at the beginning of 2023 were like, hey, we're just going to focus all in on Nevada. Our goal is to grow the brand correctly in Nevada and get it back to where it once was.
Very nice, very nice. That's probably good. I mean, again, obviously, small team, big dream, but juggling multiple markets, especially if you're from Nevada, you've been here since the beginning of medical days, you're familiar with this market, that information, that knowledge and everything you guys have learned along the way doesn't always translate to the other markets because they have different regulations, different parts. Obviously, the cannabis itself is very much so different, but
1,000%.
Good on you guys for just doing what's right for the brand, Obviously, you guys have endured a lot of difficulties, a lot of growing pains, but the fact that you weathered the storm, you're still here doing it, and, we're still talking about the brand today is, makes it all worth it, right?
100%. Yeah, and I think that just goes back to JC's will to never quit. You know, JC's really good at not quitting, and this is something that JC's always said. It's like I never really understood how people can just like not do it anymore, because it's like if it's not working, you can just stop for a little bit and then pick it right back up.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what we've done, right? It's like the brand kind of sizzled down for a little bit, and now we're ramping it back up. Very nice, very nice. You guys have a new partnership? Yeah, we're super excited about it. Jason, you want to talk about it?
I mean, it's the Dune cultivation, right? And it's one of the partners and founding members is Willie Velasic.
Okay.
So great young kids. They have grows. I could be incorrect, but I believe they have a grow in Washington.
They have a grow in almost every legal state right now.
And,
oh, wow.
And they have the process really dialed in. They're young guys, really smart, and they're growing great cannabis.
Yeah,
honestly.
Phenomenal cannabis, and they've been great partners, and we just really appreciate them and what they're doing. And
they get the licensing process, right? A lot of these times you deal with owners, and they're like coming from other industries, and they've just funded it, and they don't really get the market. It's like they're what do you call it? Disconnected. These guys really understand what it takes to get good cannabis out at the right price, with good service and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, shout out to our guy Doug over at the facility, just holding it down.
Doug the Plug.
Yeah, Doug the Plug. Is what we call him.
Doug the Plug.
Yeah.
There you go. That's a hell of a nickname right there.
He's the man.
It's actually his Instagram handle, so
Yeah.
it's real serious.
Doug the Plug. Okay, hey, there you go. It's official, right? It's like full-time Tony.
Yes.
Hell yeah, guys. So it sounds like we got a new home. Everything's going. I mean, the flower is amazing right here.
Right.
This is the joint number 2 of the. I'm sorry, Culture Kush.
Yes.
Culture Kush, and I got the VGK right here. I do have a Volcano bag we're going to load up here, but before I do that, you guys, you touched on it a little bit earlier. You guys are kind of known for the marketing and what you guys have done to really create a bunch of noise here in the scene. What are some obstacles you guys have had to endure? Because clearly social media is not a very friendly place for our industry, and what have been some growing pains you guys have learned along the way in that space?
I think the main thing is like budget, right? I think we probably could have created a lot of the same content with our iPhones. I don't know, looking back, maybe that's different nowadays. But I mean, honestly, Instagram's always been really good for us, right? We don't have the hugest page, but like we feel like the people that follow us are really connected to us. They know who we are. We have been banned, or what do you call it?
Shadow ban?
Not shadow banned, but disabled.
Yeah, we've been disabled many
Oh, wow.
Disabled means you can get it back, right?
Okay.
So like we've had to go through this process where you send them an email, etc. I probably had to do that 10 times.
Wow.
But then I've always had my personal, right?
Thank you, brother.
Which has never been kind of disabled, So I mean, listen, it's cannabis, right? The thing about it is it's kind of an even playing field, right? So everyone has the same struggles.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like who can execute on that platform better.
Yeah, but I think having your personal page is going to help you stand out that way, because obviously you have JC Coates, you have Full-Time Tony. You're not just talking about cannabis on there, but I think that's what helps you kind of break out of the box,
Yeah.
I've cost NuWu several Instagram handles over the years. You learn these things, you roll with the punches, you pivot when you have to, but there's a lot more people on Instagram than, say, TikTok, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some of the other platforms and things like that are up and coming. So there's a potential reach, but just with the rules and everything like that, man, it's an ever-changing ballgame. Because remember before Reels existed, you know what I mean?
It was really tough.
Yeah, and obviously they rolled that out because they're trying to be like TikTok. They're just trying to heavily police it, and but I understand it. Obviously, we don't want our marketing to go to teenagers and people who should not be receiving it. But I mean, I feel like it's kind of been an uphill battle trying to figure those out as you're rolling out all these changes, But you can reach a broader audience with that. And what has your guys' approach been in that sense, like present day, on trying to just stand out and again make a bunch of noise?
I think it's more about the knowledge. JC's been doing a really good job about posting about updates, so updating people on the company. Right now, social media is kind of going through this. I think social media and companies in general are kind of going through this revolution where founder-based companies are performing really well, and founder-based company content performs well. Well, it's like, hey, my name's JC Coates. I own this company called Culture Cannabis. This is what's happening, right? We just got into NuWu. We just sold out at NuWu. We're about to be on the podcast. And just giving people updates so that they understand, like, this is what it takes to run a business like that. Because it's like, people want to know about the flower and stuff, but people want to know what we're doing and how we're doing it and how we're achieving certain things. So I think that's been the most important. And then also doing like content that is friendly to Instagram, that doesn't necessarily like have me just like blowing blunts on it, right? Like the idea of creating content that's like cross industry. So I own a restaurant in town, and I try to do the crossover to make it less about cannabis and more about a lifestyle and more about the community.
100%. I think you have to, but I think you hit the nail on the head with just kind of the company updates. I think, especially since TikTok's entered the market, that we've gotten a more say real time with it. You know what I mean? Most people are looking at their phone multiple times a day and seeing these updates. So it's like, okay, maybe I saw your post last week, but because I liked it and engaged with it, it's this week. And if I'm trying to stay updated on what's going on with Culture and Cannabis or JC Coates or Full Time Tony, by just kind of doing that plug and keeping those updates in a more eloquent and a not necessarily long form way, but more thorough kind of way. But you're right, you're talking about the plant more indirectly, you know?
Yeah. So like, we did a video for a dispensary for one of their anniversary parties, and it's like you have to be like very selective with the words you're using. You can show the jar, you just can't show the plant. You can talk about the sale, but not talk about the sale of cannabis in that sense. So just like being very selective with how you're speaking about it. You can use Instagram to your advantage. It is still very hard though. You can't run ads. I mean, there's a lot of things you can't do, and so brands have to figure out other ways to spend money to have marketing that has ROI.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's, again, rolling with the punches and just kind of staying in tune with the changes that happen in social media in real time. You're right. Without being able to do target ads, I think that's digital marketing 101, right?
Yeah.
You know,
hell, it sucks.
Yeah. It's definitely uphill. You got to be like twice as creative. I feel, to try to reach a smaller audience, but I mean, what are you going to do other than that? Just not play the game, you know?
100%.
So.
And I do think that just showcasing some products, like I have found out about certain products just because I followed this one person. I had no clue this company was even coming to market with a product I wanted to try. And, following that one person who is a bud tender or a buyer or whatever, who is just like not necessarily trying to sell you something, just showcasing like, hey, Culture and Cannabis just dropped this type of thing.
Yeah. No, I think you saw it here recently with that trend where everyone was, I don't know how to verbalize it well, where you're taking this motion from a viral clip, you know what I mean? That's your viral hook, and then you start with that movement. But I think a lot of people picked up on that very quick, and almost every person that I saw doing it was a salesperson, you know? Okay. And that's what I thought was very interesting. I was like, oh, look, we're getting better at this as like a society, you know?
100%.
Like, what's the trend? How can I make it my own? And how can I use that to expand my brand, you know? So it doesn't really matter what your industry in that regard is. It's just a matter of how tenacious and how creative you are.
Yeah,
know?
100%. I still think memes are super untapped for brands. Like, I think that if you can do like funny, creative content correctly, that doesn't have to necessarily like sell a product. I feel like that's super untapped for a lot of these growers. Like, especially for the growers that don't have dispensaries, as you know, in Nevada specifically, it's tough to sell weed if you don't have a dispensary to buy weed from X dispensary who also grows weed.
Yeah.
So doing fun, creative stuff, I think, is like super untapped, and just doing like taking those viral trends and creating it as a cannabis trend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, 100%. Gotta stand out. Again, you can't win if you don't play. This is Vegas after all, right?
100%.
Hell yeah. So we touched on it a little bit earlier. Again, you guys have definitely endured some growing pains. So but you're still here chugging. So what would you say to someone who might be struggling trying to follow their dreams, and what would you say to keep them motivated and on track?
I would ask them what their dream is first to make sure that's realistic. It's not even that. It's just like, there's certain obstacles that you can't get around. And I think like broadly, you should follow your dreams. You should follow your passion, figure out how you can monetize it. There's so many ways to monetize your dream nowadays. It's like, if you just get in front of a camera and talk about your passion, and you actually are serious about that passion, you can make money. Cannabis specifically is very tough just because it's a very expensive place to play. It's like you can't just open a dispensary. You can't just start a cannabis brand. You can. It's just got a lot more hoops to jump through.
Yeah.
And not to be pessimistic. I think what I have realized now, being in my 8th or 9th year in cannabis, is that there are ways to attack the market. You just have to be creative with it.
Yeah, 100%. That's the goal, right? Stay creative, stay driven, and just keep moving, right?
Yeah, keep moving. Yeah, and you can't quit. I guess that's like the biggest thing.
Yeah, I mean, and the whole don't quit thing. I'm getting pretty stoned. That's pretty good weed.
Yeah,
right?
I'm right there with you guys.
JC's having a good time.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, I think you should do what you're passionate about, right? But then, if it's not working, you might need to quit, right? Or pivot and go in a different direction. The tricky part is when you're doing something that you're passionate about, you love it, right? And then so you get romantic about it. And when sometimes what I see is like, it's not working, right? People doing something that they love, they're romantic about it, and they spin their wheels over and over and over their whole life, right? They're not doing 3 things, right? Making an impact, making money, or being fulfilled, right? And so like, because that's, success can be measured in those 3 ways, basically, right? It's not just money, but if you're not receiving those 3 things, you might need to quit.
Yeah.
And do something else, right? And pivot and not be scared to do that.
No, 100%. That's a good way to look at it. Just got to be real with yourself. Just check in, and sometimes just you're right. No emotion. This is an emotion-based decision. You just got to look at it analytically and really kind of judge where you're at. Are your goals realistic? I think just with what we've seen here in the market here, just the past couple years, right? This would be a hell of a time to try to break into the industry if we're talking like present day 2024. But culmination of a lot of work, a lot of years, a lot of experience. You can still be here chugging, but you got to just kind of be real and kind of taper your expectations, right?
100%. Yeah. I just think that cannabis as a whole is not as popular as it once was, right? Yeah. And you can see, and that's across the country. I think cannabis is now I just saw a study that said cannabis is more of a choice of I won't even want to call it a drug, but like a choice instead of alcohol. Like people are choosing cannabis over alcohol a lot more. But I still think with that, like places like this that has a very developed market, very ingrained thing, it's about how can you attack it in a way that no one else has attacked it before.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, just staying creative, staying tenacious, right? So for you guys personally, are there any like personal, habits that keep you guys focused on your goals and keep you driven all these years later?
Just like having a firm foundation in my purpose, right? Like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Like, what am I doing? Because when it gets hard, you got to remember that. But yeah, I don't know. I exercise. I'm in the gym every day. I eat almost flawless 90% of the time, honestly. I keep my promises.
Listen, I eat flawless. My diet is perfect. I count every macronutrient
90% of the time.
No, I think it's super important to be active. I think that's something that I know for me helps me stay on task is making sure you're working out, taking care of yourself as best you can, and I think also remembering why you started, such a cliche thing to say, but honestly, it's very important. Like, I think me and JC have our reasons why we do the things we do. For me, it's for my family. I'm pretty sure for JC, it's for his family. And so it's like, when times get tough, you got to remember about them, or like, whatever the reason is you did this, remember that reason. Then that's why you have to push there.
Yeah. No, purpose-driven work, right? It makes it easier to, swallow the bitter pills and the things that you have to do to kind of roll the punches, right?
Yeah.
So,
and sometimes you have to do things you don't want to fucking do.
Yeah.
I think that's a thing that people don't realize. Like, I really had to cut my teeth on selling a bunch of brands I did not want to sell before I could sell a brand that I own.
Yeah.
JC had to do a bunch of mixers that he did not want to do, or maybe did want to do, before he could build a culture in cannabis where he was booking Mike Jones, Paul Walls during, some of the biggest conventions for the biggest parties for the biggest conventions in the world.
Hell yeah. No. And, again, culmination of a lot of work. So, to that point, let's talk about the future. What's next for Culture and Cannabis? You guys have any upcoming projects, strains, releases? What are you guys working on?
We are releasing a new strain, Sinatra Cookies.
Oh,
Is that what it's called?
This is cool.
Sinatra Cookies.
Yeah, it's gonna be fire. It's testing around 30%. So we'll release that, but really just focusing on our products, right? On the cannabis, the partnerships that we have, and expanding our menu probably onto the production side, and really getting a bigger menu so we can create more revenue.
Right.
So we can do more cool shit. Honestly, we'll probably do some events this year, but they'll probably be mainly focused around our dispensary partners and creating value for people that make purchases.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I think it's also important that we, for the future, are looking at what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. So you might not see the same culture and cannabis events happening, but there will be culture and cannabis events happening.
Gotcha. So not going away. It might just be on a pause or evolving a little bit as the market's evolving, right?
And you got to try the products, because the products are new and they're fresh. So it's like it's a new experience for people. So like that's what it is.
And sometimes hard getting that second chance with a consumer. You know what I mean? Personally, sitting here enjoying these, lovely strains with you guys here, compared to the products I've had in the past. No disrespect to any prior partners or anything like that, but you're right. It's fresh, it's potent. You know what I mean? I think it definitely stands out. So, if you tried it in the past, you got to try this new, right?
Yeah, for
100%. 100%.
And what are you guys' plans to try to still engage the community?
I think still doing, we still want to do these partner events where we're teaming up with people that are, dispensaries that want us to help them do events, marketing. I definitely think we'll get back into doing more like media stuff here in the future. Probably get back on the website, writing some more blogs. There might be a chance of Culture and Cannabis podcast come back, stuff of that nature, just how things evolve. But I think that's what is most important, is doing events at dispensaries, because that's where the community's at. Yeah. Right. Instead of us trying to bring the community to us, we're going to go to them. And we've seen that now a couple different times. We've been fortunate enough to help host a couple events here, which has been great. We were here for the carnival.
Yep. 420
State Fair.
420 State Fair, which was fantastic. And we got to host a stage of a bunch of local musicians, artists who did a great job. And it was a lot of fun. And it was cool to get back on stage with this guy. And so I'm excited to see what events we're going to be helping out here at NuWu and then the rest of the community. So
very nice. In your guys' opinion, being industry veterans, being here doing it a long time, is there a topic or subject that isn't getting enough attention right now?
Honestly, I think people don't realize how much cannabis has dropped in sales. Like year over year, we're down 25%, I think, since 2021 or 2022. And I don't think people people in the community know that, right? But I don't think people outside the community realize that sales are going lower and lower in cannabis. And I think it's just because, the initial excitement about it is kind of wearing off. Also, things are getting more expensive. People have to be a lot more smarter with their money decisions. So I think that's kind of an interesting idea. Like, why is that happening? Like, what is the main driver of that? I think no one's really getting to the bottom of it.
It's really just the price of flower has dropped.
Yeah.
And
the ripples in the pool for all the other subcategories they're in, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You have flower brands that were selling, $2,500 pounds 2 years ago, selling $1,600 pounds today, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, that affects like the cultivation, right? Because the cultivation probably built for
that much revenue
pounds
coming
to
in.
Be a little bit more, right? And then so that affects the brands, and then the dispensaries just sell what they do, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
I am excited though. I don't think people are talking about it, but I think I am excited with places like NuWu. It's always been great because like NuWu has been the place that could do things that other places couldn't do, right? Doing the state fair, being able to smoke here, having a lounge, right? You guys have been the pioneer of it, so it's been cool to see. And now these lounges start popping up, so I think it's exciting to see what the future holds with independent license holders and see how they can be creative to make money, and then how the dispensaries are going to start implementing lounges into their dispensaries.
100%. It's been very interesting to see the rollout. I know we talked about it in great lengths last time you guys were on. I know now that we're here in present day and we have some competition in the space. Personally, I've been waiting for this since fucking October of 2019 when we opened up the Vegas tasting room. Because, as the marketing guy at NuWu, I was like, what lounges are doing what? And what are they doing? What's working? What's not? And then everything you have to compare it to. You have lounges like California lounges. At the time it was Lowell's Farm, and they were definitely more of a restaurant that just kind of like had cannabis, but it was kind of more like that Amsterdam approach. You were a coffee shop that also just kind of sells joints, and we've been trying to be quite different in our approach. You know what I mean? We're definitely a cannabis lounge, a space activation, event hub. We're trying to do all those things, and that's very important to us. But when you have nothing else to compare yourself to, it's kind of hard to look in the mirror sometimes and really see, like you guys were saying earlier, like, am I doing the best I can be doing? Like what's really happening here? So I've been waiting for this for years, just to, okay, what are the other guys going to do?
Right.
And now I'm like, okay, this is fine.
Yeah.
We're good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Because we do have the advantage. We've been here doing this a lot longer. We're really set up for the future, and we're trying not to be a footnote in the history books. We're trying to be the page. You know what I mean? So, but it is exciting to see cannabis kind of get to that point, that accessibility, and to piggyback on what you were saying as far as like the market and the just compression that's happening right now. Personally, I think it's also from these other markets. In 2017, when we just go live with recreational, you're seeing people from Oklahoma, Kansas, all these places in the Midwest, and they're just like doe-eyed, like, oh my God, what is this? I've never seen anything like this before. Those are all places with legal markets now. Yeah. And those consumers that were coming to Vegas to buy hundreds of dollars worth of product to smuggle back home and do whatever that they were doing at that point in time are now doing the opposite. I'm buying from my local shop, packing that in my bag for my trip to Vegas because I know I like this product and I don't have to run any risks. Yeah. So I think for locally, we just kind of, we based a lot of the numbers and the projections based off what we saw in 2017, 2018, 2019, and now post-pandemic and beyond, we're like, whoa, what's happening? I think we really underestimated our locals and how much they're really feeding the market.
Yeah, and I still think that we're gonna see ebbs and flows in this industry for a long time, and I think going back to your point about like being able to look yourself in the mirror as a lounge, I don't even think the industry really knows what the consumer truly wants in a lounge, right? And I think you guys have done a good job by doing a wide variety of events, trying to do different, like, you know, more like a networking thing, or doing more like the comedy shows or the karaoke nights. And I think you guys are, you know, are getting able to test it out, so you can see what works, what doesn't work. But I do think that as you guys go on, you guys are gonna, you know, fine tune that, right, and figure out exactly what works. And then someone will do something that's completely off the wall that will actually really work, and people will adopt pieces of that. So I think it's just an exciting time. I do think that within the drop of cannabis, the compression, the race, everyone called it the race to the bottom. Right. I think we are going to see some stars rise out of it, and we're trying to be one of those stars. Yeah, the cream of the crop always rises, right? Yeah. Hell yeah. All right. Well, the lounge has to open up here soon. I do have a couple more questions for you, and we're going to finally dive into this volcano I've been talking about forever. But so if you guys had a magic little wand and you could make any change to the cannabis industry, what would it be and why? I think the regulation side of it, I think taxes obviously is such a huge pain in the ass. Taxes. Yeah, taxes are a huge pain in the butt. I do wish that there was more of a craft brewery approach to cannabis rather than a corporation government approach to it. I understand why they had to take it initially like that. Obviously, you guys know my feelings about the lounges. I'm not going to dive into that right now. I just think I think things become a little bit looser as time goes on. I'm not saying I don't want it to become like Oklahoma. I want the business to actually make money, but I do think that allowing cannabis to actually get into the community, as we have let gambling and alcohol, like, you know, you can go to any 7-Eleven, you can hit the slots and drink a beer in that 7-Eleven. Yeah. So it's like, you know, who's to say that you can't smoke a joint outside? Right. 100%. What about you, JC?
I mean, honestly, just the taxes, right?
It's like I'm a simple guy.
And I honestly, I guess like the legal stuff that's going on, you know, and then, you know, all the people in jail. We could probably start there, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, no,
just like the social stigma in general, you know what I mean? Make it more available for people and stop acting like cannabis is the devil's lettuce, you know?
I think as a society, we've definitely had a big paradigm shift, if you will. You know what I mean? Circling back to, again, all these markets that have popped up in the past few years. And it is interesting now because now if you are in a market where cannabis is still criminalized, you're the minority. And as a dude who grew up in the Midwest, it's crazy for me to think, you know, because I personally had a few run-ins with the law due to this plant, but I'm still here chugging all these years later and never stop, right?
100%, yeah. And I think going back to the part about taxes, I think that if there were less taxes, it would allow more companies to do cooler stuff, pay their employees more, stuff of that nature.
100%.
Are we passing this thing?
Yeah, let's do it.
Head the whole thing.
I mean, we can do that. You know, six of this, half a dozen of the other.
Don't let JC.
Don't let JC. Cool, guys. So what are your thoughts on the future of cannabis media?
I'm really excited about the future of cannabis media. I feel like, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I've seen, you know, such a decline in influencers in the scene. There used to be so many more accounts, and then Instagram's really started cracking down more and more. And I think the pandemic really took out a lot of people. Yeah. Just in the sense that, you know, it's really, you know, it's tough, you know, like I said, taxes are really high, so it makes it hard for cannabis brands to pay influencers to create videos and content and stuff of that nature. So I'm excited to see that open up too. I mean, I'm not really sure what's happening at the federal level with the decriminalization or like the reschedulization of cannabis, but I feel like that will help long term, because at the end of the day, Instagram, Facebook, all these brands want to take people's money. So like they don't care where it comes from. They just have to do it in a way that makes sense
and
for them.
Their interests.
And legally, right? And these are publicly traded companies, so they can't be dealing with federally illegal drugs. So I think that's gonna be cool, seeing creators pop up the same way that people like in the foodie scene, right? There's gonna be it's gonna be like very similar, and I love that cannabis is a lifestyle rather than just a product. So like that, it transfers over into everything. Yeah,
which helps that you guys are the brand Culture and Cannabis. You already set up for it, right? Because you're rooted in what drew us all to the plant as young guys out here cutting our teeth. I think it's much bigger than that. If you compare it to say alcohol or something else, if alcohol is your culture, you're probably not living the best life, But
it's probably rough for you.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to wake up when you're drinking that much, right?
Yeah.
Cool, guys. So are there any personal projects or like passions you guys have outside of the cannabis space that we want to talk about real quick?
I know Tony does in food and beverage.
Yeah. So I own a restaurant here in town called Smokin' Fire, which has been awesome. It's been, in my opinion, it's been like an awesome, like little spot for cannabis industry professionals to come hang out. We've had, a couple different cannabis events there. Pretty much every lunch meeting me and JC have had since we've opened the restaurant has been there, which has been nice. And it's crazy how much of a crossover that is. Not to mention any competitors, but we've been able to do like some collaborations. Right now we're doing a collaboration with The Source, which has multiple locations here. It's called Fire Fridays. And so if you spend over $100 at The Source, $125 at The Source on a Friday during the month of August, you get a $10 gift card to Smokin' Fire. So that's been fun.
Very nice. It's a good way to, bridge the gap and, leverage the relationships you have, in both aspects and work together. Because as we were talking about at the top of the show here, food's a big part of cannabis, right? We've all gotten really high and had some munchies, right? You know, it's, can't have one without the other. So
yeah, the food's, yeah.
Peak, yeah. Number one. Oh, yeah, guys. So as we wrap this up here, what advice would you give to the next generation of cannabis entrepreneurs?
I mean, if you're launching a brand, I can really only talk about that. But I think if you start with event marketing, collect data, and remarket to them, then you can create a community and develop a brand, right? I don't know. I think we are going to see more like founder-based content, like he was mentioning, like more people launching brands and showcasing that process. And I think if you do that, then you'll get people interested in what you're doing, and hopefully, get some traction.
There you go. What about you, brother?
I would just say be steadfast in what you want to do and be committed, and do your research, know what you're talking about, make sure you're working with people that you want to work with. Yeah, and use the tools that you have to your advantage, and just don't stop. You're in cannabis entrepreneurs, you're gonna hit a billion walls, way more walls, way more obstacles than you would in any other industry. So you have to be perseverant.
There you go. Keep grinding. Never stop. Right. Unless it's time to.
Yes. unless you dump a bunch of money in a state called Oklahoma, and then you're like, maybe we shouldn't be here.
Hell yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, this has been a super fun conversation. Hope to have you guys back on in the future. Look forward to all the activations and fun stuff we have coming up. But yeah, thanks for coming on the podcast. Tell the people where they can find you guys.
They can find Culture and Cannabis at Culture and Cannabis LV. Or no, it's just at Culture and Cannabis right now, right?
Yes.
Just at Culture and Cannabis. My apologies. You can find JC at jc.coates. And then you can find me on Instagram at Fulltime Tony. Check out my restaurant at Smokin' Fire LV, or my foodie page at Fulltime Eats.
There you go. There you go. And while we're on the topic, make sure you guys are following NuWu LV, SkyHighLounge, our sister store, NuWu North up there. We even have a page for NuWu Sessions. We post on it sometimes, but support all the channels. Thank you guys for tapping in. And until the next one, we out.
Peace.
What up, NuWu fam? Thank you for watching NuWu Sessions. Just want to remind you to hit that subscribe button right down there and click the little bell icon so you get notified every single time we drop some new content. Thanks for watching. Let's get back to it.